Yay, we are live. Hello, humans. Happy Friday. Dr. Sarah Happening here with Performances Happening, and we are bringing another speaker from our interview series of the Total Worker Health Symposium. And today we are joined by Jeffrey Wolinsky. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I know that the Worker Symposium has moved to virtual, which we're really bummed out about because we would have loved to have gotten to meet you in person. But for our business at Federal News Network, we're also very much in favor of total worker health being part of what's taken place in the government shutdown and advocating that we need the government to be open for the public sector employees to be able to do their jobs. So our publication is really reporting on this and keeping federal employees informed, but there is a health aspect to what's taking place in this shutdown that sometimes gets overshadowed by the political rhetoric that we see.
I love that. Yeah. We discovered last night officially that we are now moving to a virtual format. And one of the benefits that I do see is number one, if you can't travel, you can now join us online. And number two, which was a big worry for me because I love to learn, if there's two sessions going on at the same time, we now have 30 days access. Once you register with your ticket, you can watch all of the things. So you're not missing out on anything. Okay. I've got a bio written, so I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Jeffrey, and then we're going to dig in. Oh, I forgot to ask. Do you like Jeffrey or Jeff?
I'll always refer to myself as Jeffrey.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. It's important. It's your name. We also went over, I'm Sarah, not Sarah. So names are important, right? As part of our self-identity and all that. Okay. Today we have Jeffrey Wolinsky. He's a publisher of Federal News Network and sales lead for WTOP and 2060 Digital. Jeffrey was practically born into media, growing up in his family's advertising agency where marketing was part of everyday conversation. Over the past 20 years, he's worked with hundreds of local and national companies, helping them bring creative media concepts to life. At WTOP, the number one revenue producing radio station in the country, Jeffrey has led its evolution into a powerhouse digital news organization with massive reach across radio, digital, and social. He's also helped expand WTOP's services so clients can connect with audiences through cutting edge digital marketing. Jeffrey is a sought after speaker with multiple main stage talks at GAIN, the premier event for government marketers, and features on podcasts and panels across the industry. He's a certified facilitator in creative problem solving, a past winner of the National Sales Manager of the Year Award, and a proud graduate of the University of Maryland Smith School of Business. When he's not leading in the media world, you'll find him coaching youth sports and cheering on Maryland's basketball alongside his 3 sons. So welcome, and thanks again for being here.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, so you've been immersed in media since childhood. How has that early exposure shaped the way you think about communication and connection today?
Well, interestingly, as you're reading the types of things that I've achieved over time, I realize that as a manager, it means not what you've achieved, but means more what you can help other people achieve. And it's challenging sometimes because people that get into management roles got there because of their ability to move themselves forward, put themselves in a risk place where they were able to get the reward of rising in a corporate situation. But now, once they get that position, they have to learn how to help others. And so it has created a unique dynamic in society where I've seen very different from my kids growing up than my generation growing up was all about how can I stand out versus the way that now I see a lot more group thinks and group projects. And neither side is right. Each has its own positives. Certainly, the aspirations of my generation matched with the idea of working together of the current generation. There is somewhere in the middle because I think sometimes we've seen too many people involved in certain decisions that end up taking more time than they need to. But the biggest takeaway for me is that how you make people feel impacts how you get results from those people.
Yeah, I love that. I'm on the same page for sure. And so many managers or leaders, they're brought up the reins in work because they're good at their job, but they've never been taught skills like communication, feedback, motivation, how you actually get performance or how to lead. So I think it's really important. And I think one of the really cool things about total worker health and what I'm hearing from a lot of these organizations and people that we're interviewing is it's finally coming down from more of the individual. Now organizations are actually realizing that it is their job and they have this wonderful opportunity to create happy and healthy workplaces, but it is from an organizational perspective that it's so important because they create the environment and humans don't just live in a box, right? Like 8 hours at work, but they have to take these skills and go home, and we're not robots. So I love that.
You also have another challenge that is developing, and I got to see this firsthand when I was on the Healthcare Action Alliance call that brought me to this, which is as the stock market hits new highs, we are at a place where large corporations in America employ so much of the population, yet the population and zeitgeist of our community wants to be an individual and matter. And so there's this conflicting dynamic of I work for a company that has 20, 30, 100, 200,000 people, but at the same time, I want to be individual. And how does that company help you be an individual while still being part of a massive organization that is the largest level that we've ever been at in human history? Those are huge challenges that people on the worker performance side of businesses are struggling with every day.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's like a combination of what does that individual need? So one of the things we do is individual zones of optimal functioning, but also how do you create a climate from the organizational level that's going to help all those people as individuals, but help everyone at whole. So,
Well, and there's multiple layers to that. First is what is the corporate layer deciding is the way that they're going to go about, whether it be with benefits, with vision, with culture that they're setting from the top. How do they internally communicate that? How do they train the divisional or lead managers? And how does it trickle down to the frontline employee for their experience when it comes to the workplace? And we're seeing this across all kinds of lines of business, whether it be people who are returning to the office in a way that they were pre-COVID, people who were hired during COVID under different expectations, people who are graduating from college and entering the workforce for a first time and trying to understand what expectations are. And so it's never been harder to be in a lead or managerial role right now in corporate America.
yeah, I think that's so true. And I love this idea of where do you get started when you know you want to make a difference, you want change in your organization. Like, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Where do you start?
Yeah, that's the challenge for people like you mentioned who were good at their job, got promoted to a different job that they may or may not be good at. In the first place is you have to educate yourself. You can't just think I'm doing my job because your job has a set of criterias, but it also chose you for the job because it needs you to individualize it. Anytime that you've become a manager or lead or have any role that's outside of just processing something, you have to bring who you are to that and make it better than it was before you were there. So make your mark, leave your impression on that position in a positive way so that if you leave it at some time in the future, you can look back and say, I had a positive influence on the people, organization, and mission that I served. The next part of that is you have to test and evaluate. A leader of an organization I was previously part of coined it more so as the think, act, think method. So you got promoted or you got put in a leadership position because somebody believed not only in the product that you would put out as a skill set for your employment, but because they believed in your mind. So the first step is think about what's going on in the organization and understand what the people need, assess the situation, and come up with a plan. Act on the plan that you thought about in your mind and see it through in a thoughtful, methodical way. And then think again, did what I do work for the things that I found needed to be thought about? And then continue that cycle over and over and over and over again, because the organization changes, the world changes, the needs of the people change, and you change. So you can't just think, act, think one time. It's a perpetual motion of thinking, acting on those things, and thinking about how they're working.
Yeah. That's a great approach. I mean, what I'm hearing is assess, evaluate, assess again, reevaluate, put in the skills in there. And then it's like rolling a ball up a hill. And then it gets easier when it's on the other side of the mountain. But yeah, if we don't measure anything, we don't know. Like human beings forget.
One of the things that's challenging is a lot of ways that I could have answered your question of what do these managers do is you could go to Amazon and look for books for new managers. And most of those books talk about your first 30 days, your first 90 days, how to start as a new manager and all that type of stuff. And so what they do is they ask you to get shot out of a cannon, drink from the fire hose, as people like to say, and start off. What they miss, though, is how to keep it going. And so when you think about what actually matters, isn't necessarily how you start, but it's how you process over the long term. And that means that new situations call for new versions of you. And a lot of times, and this is the case for myself, I've been in the same organization and job for a significant period of time. You get into a spot for a significant period of time. You did something that was successful. Maybe you were even awarded for it or praised for it or promoted for it. And now to make change, our brain thinks that what we did in the past that was good, if we change it, we are condoning it as bad. But the reality is the past is meaningless in terms of what is called for your role today is based off of what you've assessed you need and what you think you need today. Let go of what was successful for you in the past and determine what was successful for you in the present and only do that. And don't worry about that it's an indictment of any issue in the past. It is not. If you were successful when you were in the past, you can put that on the mantle and be comfortable with it. It doesn't mean anything for the present.
Yeah, no, 100%. You just explained the first two values of what we do, which is controlling the controllables. That's my PhD in a sentence. And then you have from here moving forward, because what you've done in the past, I do personal training as well. And it's like muscle development and all that stuff. It's like, where are you at here and where are you moving forward? We can't control the past. So I think that's amazing. And I also heard you say, basically be open-minded, right? Because what you've done in the past, that's going to also just keep you comfortable. We need to get uncomfortable, but we need to change. It's like organizations that are going to leave AI aren't starting to incorporate AI. It's like that is moving so quickly. It's now, and you got to be in it now because it's going to change even 2 weeks from now. I was playing with some images, like they couldn't do fingers, and now they can full on put me in a business suit and give me a new profile picture. I took real photos, folks. The one that I put a new photo yesterday, that is me, but I was just playing with AI to see what it could do. And it's like, if you're not consistently changing and adapting, our human brains and our bodies adapt, but what's working in the past isn't necessarily going to move you forward. So I think that's a really great point to touch on. I love that.
Well, and not to go on the tangent about AI, because you could do the whole program about AI, but the tool that you're using in AI right now, or the tools that you're using in AI right now, likely will be different, both in what they deliver to you and in which tools are the appropriate ones. And the vendor lock-in, the choice of which tools and businesses you use today are changing faster in the future than ever before. And many people, both on the making decision sides of what vendors to use and on the vendor side of selling in, have to understand that the change is I need to evaluate if the tools that I'm buying today are the appropriate ones for my workforce. If I'm selling those tools, I need to evaluate if the way that I'm servicing the needs of my customer are still appropriate for the tools that I'm selling. You cannot take anything for granted because the pace of change for needs is faster because of the introduction of new capabilities or ways to do things. That has created a strain on the pace and how quickly and what is expected of you from vendor support to sales and everything in between.
Yeah, I think that's super important. So, what mindset shifts do you think will define success in organizations when we're forecasting, let's say, like the next 3 or 5 years?
Yeah, I think we started to hit on it right now, which is this idea of a fixed versus moldable mindset. And if you think back to American values in terms of what it meant to be a trusted company or organization, and we're seeing this in all industries, that it used to be I wanted to make the safe choice as a reflection on my decision to spend my company's money. And certainly people don't want to make the wrong choice, but now people want to make the innovative choice. And that's great for American innovation, but it makes it more anxious causing for workers because you're balancing a safe decision and the reflection that it has on you with making an innovative decision and moving the company forward and making that right decision. And there are so many factors that go into that in terms of your confidence in your job. We are seeing a change in the labor market for sure. You're seeing the confidence in where you are in your career and what that longevity is. And so as a leader, you have to evaluate who's making decisions in your company, what factors in to the decisions they're making and how they're being influenced by a variety of different things that are pushing them, and how you make it clear the way you want decisions made in your organization for your overall mission and vision that you're trying to have within the culture of the team.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think there's a saying of it's not about making the right decision, it's about making the decision right and also having the flexibility to adapt because things are moving so quickly and we're working with humans. A lot of us are working with humans and their needs change, their motivations change, and the technology that they have access to is changing. So again, going back to like that open-minded mindset and growth mindset and being able to change, I think it's awesome. And I think what you're doing is important. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your session? I have the time here, so I can give you the time that's going to take place. That's going down on the 23rd at 11:30. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you'll be talking about?
Well, when you think about total worker health symposium, there's so many things that go into total health. And for me, I wasn't very much aware of a topic being menopause based off of both the way that it was talked about in my family. Obviously, I'm a male, and the females in my life haven't really gone through it. And so I got exposed to that through a client and partner of ours that brought me to a event called Men and Menopause. And I really just went to it because of a networking opportunity and who invited me. But I was struck by the fact that a significant part of the team that I manage is in the phase of life, and it impacts obviously half of the population. And so when you start to think about what the folks at AARP and the Healthcare Action Alliance are doing, it's just bringing to light all of the different things that your workers can be dealing with as they bring themselves to work. In the same way that mental health in the workplace is now something that people very much understand at a different level and are still coming to grips and understanding with it, the way that menopause impacts a significant part of our workforce and how to help people as they have challenges in their life, and what that means for a manager who will never understand those challenges myself, is what the session will be about. And I get to give the perspective from a more small organization, more family driven, the way our business operates, versus the pairing with Dr. Mishkori in terms of the medical aspect of what that feels and looks like, and how she herself, and I've seen her talk at length about some personal stories, can bring context to it. So two very different perspectives from myself and the doctor, but helping the overall conversation look and feel of total health. And I think they could even remove the word worker, just total health symposium, because if we're all people, and if you're at a company, you're a worker, so maybe too many words in that title. Total health symposium, and we'll be specifically talking about menopause and how that impacts people's ability to be a worker in the total society that health is the number one topic for me.
I love that. We spoke with Sarah Rosen a few days ago about the menopause topic, and I work with ADHD women, and they've often been able to cope. High performers cope their whole life, and then all of a sudden hormones go crazy and they have no more coping skills because estrogen and dopamine are linked, but all that. I just think it's so important. When we were having a conversation with Sarah, she's like, yes, and we're bringing the men, because even though men don't go through menopause, they're going to know a significant other, a parent, a sister, someone at work who is going through this life change. And I just think it's so amazing that it's being destigmatized more, and we can talk about it more, because for so many years, it also wasn't researched because we're females, because our fluctuations. But now there's so much more work and science that's coming out, and I love that people are talking about it, and that it's becoming a whole human thing, but that is being discussed in workplaces and organizations. So way to go. I think that's phenomenal.
So I want to add to that, as much as women will say, hey, we didn't talk about this because we were women, I'll admit that I feel somewhat foolish or maybe insecure about having myself associated with this, because as the outsider, you could say, what do I know? Really, I don't know a whole lot. Why am I on this panel? And you get some of that imposter syndrome that a lot of times people talk about, that more so can affect females than males at times. And so this imposter syndrome is, why am I on this panel? Why am I contributing to this topic? Well, what Sarah told me is that what they are seeing, and the way that I worked on a panel with the Health Action Alliance to put together a tip sheet for the human resources departments to help managers like me, is if they just put this together with a bunch of women who are in the human resources department, and then pitch it to companies through the relationships that they have at the corporate level, it doesn't have the realistic nature of what happens in a workplace where people are walking in and out of your office all the time, and where you're trying to get tasks done and trying to deliver for your clients, or trying to deliver for what your product is, or the business function that you're trying to make happen. And so you don't get what your intention is trickling down. And so then I was like, okay, I'm willing to accept my role in that, and I'll work through my own insecurity of, hey, I don't have a lot to add when it comes to menopause. I do have a lot to add when it comes to helping your organization deliver for what your business goal and outcome are, and how can we take what this topic is and align it with what's going to deliver for business outcomes. Well, what delivers for business outcomes is having the best employees, keeping them engaged, keeping them employed, and keeping them in a place where they want your business to perform and perform better and get better. And the way to do that is to think about total health symposium, and not think of them as workers, but thinking of them as the people that make your business successful.
I love that. And thank you for your vulnerability to say like I have imposter syndrome, but I think the whole population, men, females, everybody in between, of all ages, like menopause is a real thing that's affecting a lot of people out there. So I think it's important. I think your perspective is going to be really amazing. I think I'm excited. And your session is going down at the same time as my session, but it's recording. So now I can catch both. So my session is going down on the 23rd, 11:15. Move at Work Challenge, driving employee happiness and health. And if you guys register online, you can watch everybody's session and you have 30 days access. But thank you so much, Jeffrey. Are there any closing words you want to add before we end the live?
I appreciate being here, Sarah, and what you're doing to bring this type of conversation to a larger audience. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, have a beautiful Friday, folks. Thank you so much for joining us.